The neutral station of Nova Accord Prime hung in the void of space, its polished silver hull reflecting the distant glow of a dying star. Inside its grand atrium, the air was heavy with tension as delegates from the alien empire and Earth's unified council gathered for what was officially termed peace talks. The ornate chamber was an architectural masterpiece of alien and human design, an ironic setting for the verbal battles about to unfold. The representatives seated themselves at a circular table, each flanked by aides who whispered advice and passed datapads. Commander Jason Roy adjusted his collar and folded his hands calmly on the table. His sharp blue eyes scanned the room, observing every flicker of movement and hint of emotion. He was not the type to show nerves, even in the face of those who sought his people's ruin. To his left sat Admiral Jack Simpson, the stoic leader of Earth's defense forces. Simpson was a stark contrast to Roy, with his broad shoulders and stern face etched by years of conflict. While Roy was the diplomat, Simpson embodied humanity's readiness to act if words failed. Across from them, Supreme Chancellor Vurak of the Alien Empire leaned back in his throne-like chair. His sleek crimson robe shimmered under the ambient light, and his elongated features were twisted in a sneer. The Chancellor's voice, dripping with condescension, broke the silence. Humans always come to the table speaking of peace, as if your words carry weight. Do you think we fear your soft pleas for harmony? Roy smiled faintly, refusing to rise to the bait. Peace benefits all civilizations, Chancellor. A prolonged war only wastes resources and lives. Surely the Empire sees a logic in cooperation. Vurak's entourage chuckled softly, the sound echoing like whispers of disdain. One of his aides, a hulking warrior clad in ceremonial armor, slammed a clawed hand on the table. Peace is what the weak beg for when they know they cannot win. Admiral Simpson's jaw tightened, but he remained silent, his piercing gaze locked on the speaker. Roy tilted his head slightly, his tone measured. And yet, we're here, meeting as equals. That speaks volumes, doesn't it? The tension in the room thickened, broken only by the soft hum of the station's energy core. In the corner, an old figure shifted uneasily. General Gorin, a retired commander of the alien empire, had been invited as an observer, though his presence seemed more symbolic than practical. He was smaller than the other aliens, his once imposing frame now hunched with age. His dark, sunken eyes betrayed a weariness that only decades of war could bring. Gorin cleared his throat, drawing reluctant attention. Perhaps the humans are not wrong, he said, his voice gravelly but deliberate. I have faced their kind in battle. Underestimating them is a mistake we cannot afford. The room fell silent. Vurak turned his head slowly, his expression shifting from amusement to irritation. Your time has passed, General. Leave strategy to those who still have the strength to wield it. Roy's gaze lingered on Gorin. There was something in the alien's demeanor that intrigued him, an unspoken caution, a wisdom born of experience. General Gorin, Roy said, his tone inviting yet firm, it sounds like you've learned something your peers have not. Perhaps you could enlighten us. Gorin hesitated, glancing at the hostile stares from his own delegation. Finally he spoke, his words heavy with meaning. Humans are patient. They endure, and when pushed, they become something even we do not fully understand. Do not fear their war. He paused, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Fear their peace. The words hung in the air like a storm cloud. Vurak laughed, a hollow sound that echoed through the chamber. Superstitious drivel. You've grown feeble, General. Roy leaned forward slightly, his calm exterior betraying a flicker of interest. We appreciate your honesty, General. It's rare to hear such insight. Before Gorin could respond, a chime sounded, signaling the end of the session. The delegates began to rise, murmuring amongst themselves. Roy and Simpson exchanged a glance, the unspoken understanding between them clear. They knew something the aliens did not, and the talks had only confirmed their suspicions. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Simpson broke his silence, his deep voice cutting through the chatter. "You're making a mistake," he said, directing his words at Vurak. "You think this is a game of strength. It isn't." Vurak smirked, his confidence unshaken. "And what is it, Admiral?" Simpson stepped closer, his towering figure casting a shadow over the alien leader. "It's a game of survival, and you just gave us the upper hand." Vurak's expression faltered for the briefest moment before he regained his composure. Bold words from a species clinging to its fragile existence. "We'll see how long that lasts." The humans exited the chamber, their strides purposeful and their silence deafening. As they walked down the corridor, Roy spoke softly to Simpson. "They're planning something. You saw how they looked at us." Simpson nodded. "Arrogance blinds them." "But Gorin, he's seen the truth." Roy smirked. "Then maybe we can use that." Meanwhile, back in the atrium, Gorin lingered behind, his gaze fixed on the now empty seats of the human delegation. His words echoed in his mind, a grim reminder of battles long past. He could see it already. The same mistakes, the same overconfidence. And this time, the price would be far greater. As he turned to leave, a junior officer approached him, eyes wide with urgency. "General, we've intercepted a communication. The Chancellor. He's ordered the fleet to move into position near Earth." Gorin closed his eyes, a deep sigh escaping his lips. "Fools," he muttered. "They've sealed our fate." Far from Nova Accord Prime, aboard the command ship of Earth's fleet, a hidden transmission flickered to life. Roy's face appeared on the monitor, his calm voice issuing orders. "Begin preparations. Phase 1 is in motion. Let them think they've won." The screen went dark, leaving only the faint hum of machinery and the vast emptiness of space beyond. The game had begun, and humanity was ready to play it to the end. "They're moving faster than expected," Roy said, his voice steady but laced with a hint of urgency. "We need to adjust the timeline." Simpson exhaled sharply, his frustration evident. "They're overconfident. They think they've already won because they see us as weak." "They're not entirely wrong," Roy replied. "By their standards, we are weak. What they don't understand is how we use it to our advantage." The room fell silent as the weight of his words settled over the officers. Roy turned to the group, his expression calm but commanding. "We don't have the luxury of meeting them head-on. They expect a traditional response, a show of force. That's not how we win this." A junior officer hesitated before speaking. "Sir, if we don't meet them in battle, how do we stop them from reaching Earth?" Roy glanced at the young man, his tone measured. "We don't stop them. We let them come. We make them think they've broken through our defenses, that they've outmaneuvered us. Then we remind them why underestimating humanity is a mistake." Simpson straightened, his expression hardening. "You're proposing we lure them in, let them hit what they think are key targets." Roy nodded. "Precisely. Decoy stations, cloaked mines, and false intel to guide their movements. By the time they realize they've been baited, it'll be too late." The Admiral's face remained stoic, but a flicker of approval crossed his eyes. "It's risky, but it's also exactly what they won't expect." As the officers dispersed to begin preparations, Roy lingered by the display, studying the fleet trajectories. Simpson approached him, his voice low. "You've done this before." Roy smirked faintly, his gaze never leaving the hologram. "Not on this scale, but the principle is the same. Let them think they're in control, and they'll hang themselves." "Is that what happened to you?" Simpson asked, his tone more probing than accusatory. Roy's expression darkened briefly, a shadow of something unspoken flickering across his face. "Something like that." Before Simpson could press further, a secure transmission alert interrupted them. The station's AI announced, "Incoming message. Source. Classified." Roy activated the comms, and a holographic figure appeared, General Gorin. The alien's weathered face was etched with worry, his voice strained. "Commander Roy, we need to speak." Privately, Roy exchanged a glance with Simpson before responding. General Gorin, I wasn't expecting to hear from you so soon. You don't have time for pleasantries, Gorin said. The fleet is mobilizing faster than even I anticipated. Vurak is planning a direct assault on Earth's colonies. He believes the element of surprise will guarantee Jackie. Roy tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. And yet, you're telling us this. Why? Gorin hesitated, the weight of his decision evident. Because I've seen this before. Arrogance blinds them, just as it blinded me in the past. I won't let it happen again. You're defecting, Simpson said bluntly, his tone carrying both skepticism and curiosity. I'm offering you information, Gorin corrected. What you do with it is up to you. But know this. If Vurak succeeds, it won't just be Earth that suffers. His ambition knows no bounds. He'll burn entire systems to ash if it suits him. Roy studied the alien carefully, weighing his words. And what do you want in return? Safe passage, Gorin replied. I'm a dead man if they discover this transmission. Roy's lips curved into a faint smile. You're a dead man if you stay where you are. Consider your passage granted. But if this is a trap... It's not, Gorin interrupted, his tone firm. You have my word. As the transmission ended, Simpson crossed his arms, his expression skeptical. Do you trust him? Roy shrugged. Trust isn't the issue. He's desperate, and desperation makes people predictable. Besides, even if he's lying, we'll be ready. The two men fell silent for a moment, the hum of the station filling the void. Finally, Simpson broke the silence. This plan of yours, letting them come, drawing them in, it's dangerous. Roy turned to face him, his calm demeanor unwavering. Everything about this is dangerous, but it's the only way. If we fight them on their terms, we lose. We have to change the rules. And if they adapt, Simpson asked. Roy's smile returned, cold and calculated. Then we adapt faster. Meanwhile, aboard the Empire's flagship, Vurak stood before a massive viewport, watching as his fleet assembled. The stars beyond were dotted with the sleek, predatory shapes of warships, their engines glowing ominously. He felt a surge of satisfaction, a certainty that Jackie was within his grasp. One of his aides approached, bowing deeply. Chancellor, the fleet is nearly ready. Our scouts report minimal resistance from the humans. Of course they do, Vurak said, his voice dripping with contempt. They're weak. Their words of peace are nothing more than a mask for their cowardice. The aide hesitated. And General Gorin, sir? He seems troubled. Vurak's expression darkened. Gorin is an old fool. His time has passed. Focus on the task at hand. Unbeknownst to Vurak, Gorin's absence had already been noticed by some of the crew. Whispers of his betrayal spread like wildfire, sowing seeds of doubt among the ranks. The cracks in the Empire's confidence were small, but they were there. Back on Earth, the first phase of the human plan was already underway. Decoy stations were being deployed, cloaked minefields were activated, and false signals were broadcast to mislead the Empire's scouts. Every move was calculated, every piece meticulously placed on the board. Roy watched the preparations unfold, a sense of quiet determination settling over him. They think they're hunting prey, he said, almost to himself. Let's show them what happens when the prey fights back. In the distance, the stars shimmered, oblivious to the storm that was about to erupt. The pieces were in motion, the players locked into their roles. And as the countdown to war began, one thing became clear. Humanity would not go quietly. The void of space erupted in chaos as the first wave of the alien empire's fleet emerged from hyperspace near Earth's outer colonies. Warships bristling with weapons began their advance, their confidence evident in their unrelenting formation. Each vessel moved with precision, an overwhelming display of power that reflected the empire's arrogance. But the human colonies they sought to destroy were eerily quiet, their communication channels silent. Aboard the flagship of the alien fleet, Supreme Chancellor Vurak watched the unfolding operation with a gleam of satisfaction. His advisors crowded around holographic displays, feeding him updates as the fleet spread out to secure key targets. "The humans are either cowards or fools," Vurak muttered. "They don't even have the decency to defend themselves." The Empire's fleet descended toward the first colony, a sprawling mining facility on the barren moon of Taros 7. Its surface appeared abandoned, save for a few automated machines still running in idle loops. As the alien strike teams disembarked to secure the installation, the ground beneath them erupted. Massive charges, buried deep beneath the surface, detonated with devastating force, sending shockwaves through the moon's crust. Entire platoons of alien soldiers were vaporized in an instant, while their ships, caught off guard, scrambled to retreat from the collapsing terrain. From a cloaked observation station hidden in a nearby asteroid field, Commander Jason Roy watched the explosions with a calm intensity. His team monitored every detail, their eyes glued to screens displaying the Empire's confusion. "The first trap worked," one of his officers reported. "Their advance has stalled." Roy nodded, his gaze fixed on the data streaming in. "Good. They'll regroup, but the seeds of doubt are already planted. Let them wonder what else we prepared." Admiral Jack Simpson, standing nearby with his arms crossed, allowed himself a grim smile. "They wanted war. Let's make them regret it." As the alien fleet adjusted its tactics, their warships began spreading out, scanning for more traps. They moved cautiously now, their confidence visibly shaken. But Roy and Simpson had anticipated this. Decoy signals lured several ships towards seemingly vulnerable supply depots, which were rigged with explosive mines. One by one, the Empire's vessels were picked off, their destruction leaving gaps in the once impenetrable formation. Vurak, now pacing furiously on his flagship, barked orders at his crew. "Find the humans. They're hiding in the shadows like cowards. Force them into the open." But the humans were not hiding. They were waiting. Deep within Earth's defense grid, cloaked fleets prepared for their counterstrike. The ships were sleek and angular, designed for stealth and precision. They were smaller than the Empire's massive warships, but far more maneuverable. Admiral Simpson, now aboard the Erebus, Earth's flagship, reviewed the battle plan with his officers. "The goal is not to meet them head-on," Simpson reminded his crew. "We hit them where they're weakest and disappear before they can react." The first human strike came without warning. A squadron of cloaked ships infiltrated the Empire's rear flank, targeting their support vessels. Using advanced EMP warheads, the humans disabled critical systems on several alien ships, leaving them vulnerable to follow-up attacks. Within minutes, the once-coordinated fleet was thrown into disarray. On the Empire's flagship, alarms blared as Vurak watched his fleet struggle to adapt. "How are they doing this?" he demanded, slamming his fist onto a console. "Where are these ships coming from?" General Gorin, now a defector aboard the Erebus, observed the chaos through the holographic display. His voice was calm, but heavy with the weight of experience. "They're exploiting your arrogance, Chancellor. You assumed they would fight by your rules." Vurak growled, his frustration boiling over. "And what would you have me do, old man? Surrender?" "No," Gorin replied, "but you might want to start considering the cost of your pride." Back on the Erebus, Roy coordinated the next phase of the operation. His calm demeanor belied the high stakes of the battle. "Shift the decoys to Sector 7, he ordered. "Draw their heavy cruisers away from the main fleet." The human ships danced through the battlefield, their movements calculated to sow confusion and fear. They struck with precision, targeting engines and weapon systems, then disappeared before the Empire could retaliate. Each blow chipped away at the fleet's cohesion, turning their advance into a retreat. In one particularly daring maneuver, a small squadron of human fighters led an assault on the Empire's command relay ship. The vessel, responsible for coordinating fleet-wide communications, was heavily guarded, but the humans executed their attack flawlessly. Using advanced jamming technology, They cut off the ship's ability to call for reinforcements, then delivered a final blow with a well-placed missile barrage. The ship's destruction sent shockwaves through the Empire's command structure, leaving Vurak scrambling to maintain control. Admiral Simpson, watching the battle unfold from the Erebus, allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. "They're breaking," he said quietly. "We've taken away their confidence." Roy, standing beside him, remained focused. "Confidence is only part of it. We need them to fear us. Truly fear us." As the Empire's fleet continued to falter, a desperate Vurak ordered a full retreat. His remaining ships began pulling back, their formation in shambles. But the humans were not finished. Roy gave the final order: pursue them. Make sure they remember this day. The human fleet moved in, their precision strikes forcing the Empire into a chaotic withdrawal. Vurak's flagship, once the symbol of the Empire's dominance, found itself isolated and surrounded. In a final act of defiance, Vurak ordered his crew to prepare for a last stand. On board the Erebus, Simpson considered the situation carefully. "We could end this here," he said, his tone measured. "Take out Vurak, and the Empire loses its figurehead." Roy shook his head. "Not yet. Let him run. Let him carry the story of what happened here back to his people. Fear is a more powerful weapon than destruction." Simpson nodded reluctantly. "Then we let him go. But we'll be ready for whatever comes next." The human fleet disengaged, allowing the remnants of the Empire's armada to retreat into hyperspace. The battlefield fell silent, the wreckage of alien ships scattered across the void. For the first time in generations, humanity had not only survived, but prevailed against an overwhelming enemy. As the crew of the Erebus celebrated their Jackie, Roy stood alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Gorin approached him, his expression unreadable. "You were right," the alien said. "You've turned their strength against them." Roy's voice was quiet but firm. "This isn't over. They'll come back, and next time, they'll be smarter." Gorin nodded. "But so will you." The two men stood in silence, watching as the wreckage drifted away into the endless expanse of space. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Humanity had shown its teeth, and the Empire would not forget. The silence of space was shattered as the alien Empire's battered fleet emerged from hyperspace over their stronghold, the fortified planet of Vraxis Prime. The survivors of their humiliating defeat limped into orbit, scarred ships bristling with makeshift repairs. On the flagship's command deck, Supreme Chancellor Vurak seethed with rage. His once pristine robes were stained, and his confidence had eroded into desperation. The humans' unconventional tactics had left his fleet fractured and his command on the verge of collapse. He stood before his advisors, who avoided his gaze, their fear palpable. "They made fools of us," Vurak growled, his voice trembling with barely restrained fury. "But this isn't over. We'll regroup, reinforce, and strike back harder than ever. I'll see Earth burn." A junior officer hesitated before speaking, his voice timid. "Chancellor, with respect, we've underestimated them before. Perhaps we should." "Enough!" Vurak roared, slamming his clawed hand onto the command console. "I will not tolerate defeatist drivel. Prepare the defenses. Let them come. We'll show them the true might of the Empire." Far from Vraxis Prime, aboard the human flagship Erebus, Commander Jason Roy stood in the war room, his expression unreadable as he studied the holographic projection of the alien stronghold. The display highlighted defensive emplacements, fleets in orbit, and ground-based weaponry. Admiral Jack Simpson stood beside him, arms crossed, his face a mask of determination. "They retreated to their home turf," Simpson said. "Every gun they have will be trained on us." Roy nodded, his calm demeanor unshaken. "Good. Let them dig in. The harder they hold on to their defenses, the less they'll see what's coming." Around them, the room buzzed with activity as officers coordinated the final assault. The plan was ambitious, bordering on reckless. a multi-pronged strike designed to exploit the Empire's overconfidence. Human ingenuity and daring had brought them this far, and now they would gamble everything on a single decisive blow. As the human fleet approached Vraxis Prime, cloaked in the shadow of its massive defenses, Roy and Simpson prepared their teams. On board the stealth frigates, commandos armed with cutting-edge weaponry readied themselves for infiltration. Their objective: disable the planet's primary defense grid, a massive array of orbital cannons capable of decimating entire fleets. Roy addressed the assembled strike teams through a secure channel. His voice was calm, deliberate, and unyielding. This is what we've been working toward. The Empire thinks they're safe, that we won't dare strike their heart. They're wrong. We've shown them what humans are capable of, but tonight we finish this. They called us weak, but they'll leave this battle knowing the truth. Strength isn't about the size of your fleet or the firepower of your guns. It's about resilience, ingenuity, and the will to survive. And we will survive. The fleet launched its assault with precision. Decoy ships engaged the Empire's orbital defenses, drawing their fire while cloaked vessels slipped through the chaos. The human fleet moved like a symphony of destruction, each maneuver calculated to sow confusion and exploit weaknesses. Explosions lit up the void as human and alien ships clashed in a deadly ballet of fire and steel. On the surface of Vraxis Prime, the infiltration teams deployed under the cover of darkness. Using advanced cloaking technology, they bypassed patrols and automated defenses, making their way to the central power station that fed the planet's defense grid. Commander Roy led the operation personally, his quiet confidence inspiring those around him. As they approached the facility, the team encountered heavier resistance than expected. Alien soldiers patrolled the perimeter in tight formations, their weapons scanning the shadows. Roy motioned for his team to hold, his sharp eyes assessing the situation. "Patience," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Let them come to us." Minutes passed like hours as the team waited in silence. Finally, the moment came. A patrol strayed too close, and Roy signaled the attack. The humans struck with brutal efficiency, their advanced weaponry cutting through the alien ranks with precision. By the time reinforcements arrived, the team had already breached the facility. Inside, the battle intensified. Hallways became choke points, and every step forward was hard-won. Roy moved with purpose, his mind calculating every variable. His team fought valiantly, their resolve unshaken even as the odds stacked against them. Finally, they reached the control room. A massive generator pulsed with energy, its hum filling the air. Roy set the charges himself, his hands steady despite the chaos around him. "This is it," he said, his voice firm. "Once this goes down, the fleet will have its opening. Simpson will do the rest." Outside, the human fleet pressed its advantage. With the orbital cannons disabled, Admiral Simpson launched the full might of Earth's forces against the remaining alien fleet. The Empire's ships, already weakened and demoralized, crumbled under the relentless assault. Simpson's commands were sharp and decisive, his tactical brilliance turning the tide in humanity's favor. On the surface, Roy and his team fought their way back to the extraction point. Alien reinforcements poured into the facility, desperate to stop them, but the humans held their ground. Explosions rocked the building as the charges detonated, plunging the defense grid into darkness. For the first time, the Empire's stronghold was vulnerable. As the team reached the extraction site, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows. General Gorin, his face weary but determined, greeted them with a nod. "You've done it," he said. "They'll never recover from this." Roy regarded the alien for a moment before speaking. "We're not done yet. Vurak's still out there. He needs to see this with his own eyes." The final confrontation came aboard the Empire's flagship. Vurak, now cornered and desperate, refused to surrender. Human commandos stormed the ship, cutting through his guards with ruthless precision. Roy led the charge, his movements a blend of calculated strategy and unrelenting resolve. In the end, It was Goran who confronted Vurak in the flagship's command center. The two stood face to face, their history heavy in the air. "You were my mentor once," Goran said, his voice tinged with sorrow. "You taught me to fight for the Empire, to believe in its strength. But you've let arrogance blind you. This isn't strength. It's self-destruction." Vurak snarled, his claws flexing. "You betrayed us, Goran. You betrayed me." "I saved us," Goran replied, his voice firm. "From ourselves." Before Vurak could respond, Roy entered the room, his weapon trained on the Chancellor. "It's over," he said simply. "Surrender, and your people might have a chance to rebuild." Vurak laughed bitterly. "You think this changes anything? The Empire will rise again. You can't stop us." Roy's expression hardened. "We already have." As the human fleet secured Jackie, the remnants of the Empire's forces fled, their spirit broken. On the bridge of the Erebus, Simpson and Roy watched the scene unfold. The battle was over, but the cost was not lost on them. "They'll come back," Simpson said quietly. "Eventually," Roy nodded, "and we'll be ready." They wanted to see what humans are capable of. Now they know. Goran, standing nearby, spoke softly. "Perhaps this is the beginning of something better. A chance for both our people to change." Roy glanced at him, his expression unreadable. "Maybe, but peace isn't given. It's earned." As the human fleet began its journey home, the stars stretched out before them, vast and infinite. Humanity had faced the Empire and survived. More than that, they had prevailed. And in the silence of the void, a new resolve was born, a determination to protect their hard-won future, no matter the cost.